Welcome to a parent's guide to building independence at home and in the community. Today we will be focusing on strategies and techniques that can be put into place to help grow each child's level of independence both at home and in the community. When you see this image on a slide, we will allow you time to pause the video and reflect on a particular topic. You may find it helpful to have a pen and paper at hand so that you may write down your thoughts in each area we address. We also have a learning guide that includes these reflection activities and links to resources and handouts that we will be discussing. We will include directions on how to request this at the end of the training video. When you are guided to complete a specific reflection activity, please feel free to pause the video. Today, we will build understanding by developing knowledge about the learning characteristics of children with moderate to severe disabilities and exploring the best practices that address and support these characteristics in order to increase your child's level of independence. Please take a moment to read over the agenda for this training. Please take a moment to think about your child and identify his or her adaptive and cognitive strengths. Adaptive skills refer to things like self-help skills and communication, whereas cognitive skills indicate more academic areas like reading and math. Please pause the training video and write down these areas of strength. Once you have done this, you can continue to play the training video. Here you will see a snapshot of the Building Independence and Self-Advocacy checklist. This inventory is intended to support you in determining what skills are appropriate to teach your child based on their grade level in the areas of self-help independence, communication social skills, and cognition. The inventory begins at preschool kindergarten levels and progresses up to the 9th through 12th grade ranges. You may utilize this resource as a way of determining what skills your child is able to perform independently or to break down skills in order to teach them. Sometimes it might feel as though your child might always be dependent on you for things even as simple as daily living tasks, such as washing their hands, brushing their teeth, using the bathroom, etc. Let's take a closer look at the tasks involved in these critical daily living routines. Personal hygiene tasks, such as bathing, washing hands, brushing teeth, using deodorant, going to the bathroom, brushing hair. Morning routines, such as picking out clothes and getting dressed, brushing teeth, bathing, putting on deodorant. Evening routines, showering, brushing teeth, using the bathroom, changing into pajamas. Chores, such as making the bed, picking up his or her room, taking out the trash, clearing the table, loading the dishwasher, and feeding a pet. While every child requires a different level of support to complete these tasks, our goal in this training is to help you understand how to increase your child's level of independence within these tasks. This may be becoming more independent with a particular step of a task, or becoming completely independent with a task overall. Just as the daily living skills we reviewed are of maximum importance, we understand that your child has a life outside of school and the home. We also acknowledge the time and planning it takes to teach children with significant disabilities the skills they need to fully access their community. Start by reflecting on those areas of the community that are most important to you and consider the skills your child may need in those settings. Listed on this slide are a variety of community environments, including the grocery store, mall, restaurants, etc. In which of these areas might it be a priority for you to include your child? Perhaps it is most important to your family that your child attend your place of worship. Here, you might break down the skills needed, such as maintaining a quiet voice, sitting for extended periods of time, standing when necessary, or kneeling upon a direction, and maintaining personal space. As mentioned, every child will require different types of supports in order to build independence with these types of skills. Consider some supports you or others have put into place in the past that you notice really helped your child achieve increased independence at home or in the community. Examples could include using pictures to teach your child a new skill or giving them an item to play with when they've had to wait in line for a long time. Please pause the video now so you can write down some of these supports. For the purpose of this training, we will look at a variety of learner characteristics and areas where children with significant cognitive disabilities may require extra support. We will walk you through how to use many of the strategies to teach and address these challenges. This includes adjusting the environment, putting into place routines and schedules, utilizing reinforcement, and using prompting and prompt fading techniques. You may already be using many of these strategies without even realizing it. Children may display difficulty with attention, change, and transitions. To support in these areas, we want to teach routines and procedures explicitly. As you work to ensure that routines, procedures, and schedules are clear for your child, it will become easier for him or her to display increased independence. Having a clear opening and closing for all activities will increase your child's ability to navigate the environment for learning and leisure. In your child's classroom, there are typically at least 3 defined areas with specific functions. These are a group learning area, independent work areas, and a break leisure area. Similarly, at home, you will want to structure the environment for maximum learning potential. If your child is learning from home, where possible, keep learning areas separate from leisure areas in order to support with understanding the demands and expectations of each area. For example, the break leisure area expectations will be very different than the expectations when your child is attending synchronous instruction on the computer or other schoolwork. Make a distinction for yourself and your child between school time versus home time. This will be more natural if your child is receiving face-to-face instruction when the transition indicates the change between school and home time. Let's consider what these spaces might look like in your home. Create a designated work area, somewhere that can be specific to school time and kept separate from the break leisure area and the rest of the house. While the space does not have to include posters and charts, we recommend that you talk with your child's teacher or case manager about what helps your child to be most successful in the classroom environment, such as clearly defined expectations of the workspace, visuals to support understanding of the expectations, and space that is free of unnecessary items that do not support the learning task or activity. When creating a break or leisure area, ensure that this space has clearly defined visuals that convey the expectations. This helps to ensure that the child is able to make a distinction between work and leisure time. For children who utilize token boards, consider using identical symbols, one to label the leisure area, and a matching symbol as a choice on the student's reinforcer menu from which they select prior to beginning a work or learning activity. This type of consideration can be made for structuring any environment in the house. Please listen on for more strategies to support this.
Schedules are incredibly effective tools for teaching expectations. Even adults use schedules on a daily basis. Your goal in creating a schedule is to ensure that it is developed in the mode your child can access with ease and independence. Consider whether they require a written schedule, picture symbols, real pictures, or objects. Select the level at which your child can demonstrate the most independence. As you create a schedule, set consistent times, but also allow for flexibility, especially with distance learning. Conflicts with your schedule will happen, and that is okay. To avoid mishaps, be proactive in teaching the skills required for specific routines. Take a few minutes each day to teach routines, procedures, transitions, and how to follow the schedule. This will support your child with becoming more independent and fluent in accessing each environment in your home. Increase your child's independence by having them refer to a schedule rather than depending on you to tell them what is coming next. Depending on the type of schedule you create, children can take ownership of their own schedule as activities come to a close by turning over a picture or word card of an activity, crossing it off, or removing it from the schedule to indicate the activity is completed. This supports them with tracking where they are in their day. Decide where you will place a schedule in your home so that it's accessible to your child when they need it. For children who are learning at a picture or object level, you may make schedules even more accessible by utilizing picture symbols, real pictures, or even objects. As you see in the photo on the left, the schedule includes 4 activities: music, Play-Doh, snack, cleanup. You can select household items to indicate different activities your child accesses throughout the day. The schedule on the right uses picture symbols. You can have your child match the picture after they complete the activity or remove the picture once the activity is completed. While some children are able to understand a picture symbol representing an activity, others may require real photos in order to understand and access the schedule. You will need to model how to use any type of schedule you put in place for your child to teach them how to use it. What strategies do you already use to make transition expectations clear for your child? In the classroom, your child's teacher may have labeled the specific area with picture or word supports, color-coded hooks or items for students to easily locate their personal items. Most importantly, they spent time teaching the transition routines. Think about how frequently you transition throughout your day, both in and outside of your home. To support children with increased independence, ensure that the items required for a specific transition are always located in the same area. Consider transitions to and from the school day, transitions from the computer to hands-on work, and transitions between other typical times of your day. Audible signals such as a bell, chime, or music can often support children with initiating transitions. Play a short song from your phone when a transition is occurring. Visuals paired with an auditory cue, which remains consistent, can help children to independently complete transitions with minimal to no support from you or others. Just as in the classroom, though, this will be a learning process and will require consistent and explicit instruction from you. Routines are essential structures that ensure procedures are followed. Consider all the different types of routines that children participate in during their day. It is important to explicitly and systematically teach each step of a routine until children are able to complete it with little to no prompting. See how visuals, like the ones pictured here, can be used to teach the expectations of different parts of the day, such as morning routine and bedtime routine. Some children struggle with understanding and following directions. It becomes vital that we support them by providing sequential and explicit directions using language the child can understand. Also consider the supports we discussed previously. What level of communication does your child require? Are they able to understand written words, or do they require pictures or objects? In order to identify what skills children have mastered and which are still areas of need, you should task analyze all routines and procedures, such as hand washing and transitions, as well as academic tasks. Task analysis is a term that means breaking down a skill or task into specific steps. Choose skills which you and your family have prioritized as a focus for independence. Break the skill down into each individual step and identify the steps with which your child has not yet demonstrated independence. You will then work to specifically teach each non-mastered step and support your child with putting the steps together as they become more independent. You might use a checklist to do this, which allows your child to check off the steps as they complete them. This helps those children who may have difficulty with initiating a routine. By providing the steps or a checklist, they can eventually follow along with minimal to no prompting from you or another family member. Here are some examples of task analysis. On the left, you'll see the steps as a teacher broke down the skill of going through the lunchtime routine. On the right is an example of a very simple task analysis for brushing teeth. Let's think back to some of those independent living skills we discussed earlier. While they may seem simple to us, think about all of the steps involved to do just one of these things. In order to help increase your child's independence with one of these tasks, we need to break down the task into individual steps and teach those steps one at a time. Did you know that bathing can have more than 25 steps? Using the bathroom can have 10 or more steps, and brushing your teeth can have over 15 steps. When we look at it this way, it's no wonder that some of our children require help with these tasks. Let's think about washing our hands. Take a moment to pause the video and write down the steps involved with washing your hands from start to finish. Pause the video now. Did you come up with at least the following steps? 1. Turn on water. 2. Rinse hands. 3. Get soap. 4. Rub your hands together. 5. Rinse off soap. 6. Turn off water. 7. Dry hands. Chances are you may have even written down more. Task analyzing routines and skills in this way will allow you to see which steps your child has mastered and where they still need instruction or support. Consider now the use of visual communication skills. It can be so easy to assume that a child is simply not listening or is being defiant when we tell them to do something and they don't do it. Start by considering the child's language skills. Does he or she have the vocabulary to understand what you're asking? Consider the semantics of the language you are utilizing. Some words have multiple meanings or involve abstract concepts. Think of a child who is told to take a seat, but they've only ever been told to sit down. The child may not be able to generalize the language to understand that these two phrases mean the same thing. By incorporating visual strategies, you can support language comprehension and facilitate vocabulary development. Similarly, consider the concept less is more. Sometimes we think that by providing more words in a direction or written statement, we are helping the child to better understand. But oftentimes, this actually impedes their ability to break down what we are asking them to do. It may be best to provide 2 to 3 word directions instead. In your child's classroom, teachers typically display rules and expectations for students to reference throughout the school day. They revisit these expectations before lessons or, at a minimum, at the start of each day. This provides students with clarification of what the limits are for their learning time. The same applies at home. To support children with staying organized, you can provide them with a visual list of which items are needed for an activity to support them with understanding the expectations. Think back to your child's language level and consider whether they require written words, pictures, or object supports. Some other visual strategies that support learning include labeling areas of the home and utilizing colors or mats to designate areas. It may not be inherent to your child what to do in each area or what the pictures mean, so this requires explicit teaching. The same area of your house might be used for different activities, in which case you may need to use labels to reflect this or put visuals in place to let your child know the expectation. Think of mealtime. Your child might use the same table to eat dinner that they use to play family board games or do their homework. How might you utilize visual strategies to signal the difference in expectation? You might remove work or play items, put placemats or napkins down, and display visuals that support the expectations around eating, such as wash your hands, eat, drink, food on table, sit in chair, etc. Many children with significant cognitive disabilities struggle with generalizing skills. This means they may know how to perform a skill in one specific way, but are not able to perform the same skill in different settings, with different people, or with different materials. This is especially true as a task becomes more complex or expectations change. As you teach specific skills, consider the application in multiple contexts. This might include things like teaching a child to use the bathroom at home, at school, and in the community. When possible, try to have different people teach or practice the skill with your child. Include multiple pictures or formats for teaching vocabulary and comprehension. For example, a chair at my house may not look the same as a chair at your house. If you're working on vocabulary for familiar items and objects, show the students several different examples of what it could look like. Example, apples can be red, green, yellow, etc. If you have to incorporate supports into teaching generalization, make sure that you have a plan for fading them as quickly as possible. Otherwise, children may become dependent on adults.
Many children do not have the internal motivation to complete schoolwork or less preferred tasks. Think about what motivates you to work or get things done around your house. Depending on the task, you might motivate yourself with different items. For example, you more than likely wouldn't do your job to be paid with cupcakes, but you might motivate yourself to vacuum the house or straighten up by having a cupcake once you've finished. The same is true of children. They require motivation and reinforcement to support their participation in activities and tasks. You want to make sure the child is interested in that motivation. If you don't like cupcakes, then the example I just gave doesn't matter. You wouldn't complete any cleaning chore for a cupcake. What do we mean when we say be proactive? As mentioned, children who do not have the necessary motivation in place to complete less preferred tasks often exhibit their refusal or frustration in the form of maladaptive or inappropriate behaviors. Planning and putting a system in place before the behavior occurs can not only minimize the occurrence of the undesired behavior, but, if implemented effectively, also serve to teach the correct behavior. Proactive reinforcement systems provide consistency, structure, and support to your child, and ultimately make your life much, much easier in the long run. Reinforcement, often thought of as a reward system, must be consistent. Every person who spends time with the child needs to be on the same page as to what the expectations are in order to reinforce appropriate behavior. In addition, if the child does not exhibit the appropriate behavior, the consequences need to be consistent. For example, if you reinforce your child for eating their whole dinner by allowing them dessert, but another family member allows him to have dessert after eating only 2 bites of dinner, then your child is not going to fully understand what earns him reinforcement, in this case, dessert. You will then see this difficulty with motivation continue for a longer period of time while he works to learn the expectations of mealtime. When providing reinforcement, you need to be specific. You should tell your child what they are doing correctly so they know why they are being reinforced and will be more likely to exhibit the same behavior the next time. Reinforcement needs to occur continuously. Similar to consistency, we cannot implement a reinforcement system in the morning, but not in the afternoon. Depending on the child's fatigue and motivation, we may have to increase the rate at which we reinforce as the day goes on. Reinforcement should be contingent on the student exhibiting the expected behavior. This essentially means that the child is learning, if I do this, I get this, something good. Consistency, specificity, and continuity all help to build contingency. Visual supports, like the ones we've talked about throughout this training, are particularly helpful in building this contingency. These supports may take the form of token boards, point sheets, or first-then charts. Rewards are frequently known as reinforcers in education. Reinforcers should be reinforcing. What does this mean? It means that we all have our own preferences, and just because we think a child should like something doesn't mean they will. You will know if an item is reinforcing because it will start to change your child's behavior. They will be willing to do an unpreferred task if they know they will get that cool item or activity in return. Initially, reinforcement should be immediate in order to build contingency. Remember, I do this, I get this. Praise should be paired with tangible reinforcers or physical items. This way, the child begins to associate the social praise and attention as just as reinforcing as the item itself, and also starts to see you as fun and reinforcing. Clearly label the behavior that is being reinforced, as we discussed previously. For example, you might say, "Wow, you cleaned up all your toys the first time I told you to," instead of just, "Good job." A variety of reinforcers should be used and rotated to avoid satiation. For example, "I love spaghetti, but I can't eat it every day for dinner because I will satiate or eventually grow tired of it." Unpredictability and novelty greatly enhance reinforcement. Remember, reinforcement should be contingent on good behavior. It must be earned. If a child gets it for free, he or she will not be as likely to work for it, and it will lose its power as a reinforcer. Consider what you will use as reinforcers versus something already built into your child's schedule or leisure time. Build a bin of reinforcers that has items that are saved only for reinforcing good behavior. Use age-appropriate reinforcers. This can be hard if a child likes things that younger children might typically play with. If your child doesn't initially like more age-appropriate items, pair what he or she does like with something new to build interest. For example, if an older child really likes Thomas the Train, perhaps you can pair a regular train and then fade Thomas as the student demonstrates increased interest in the real train. Finally, do not use bribery. Bribery is when your child is engaging in an inappropriate behavior and you offer them an item to get them to stop. This is different from reinforcement, where there is a clear system set up and the child earns something only after exhibiting the appropriate behavior. The problem with bribery is that while it usually works immediately, it actually reinforces the disruptive behavior, facilitates negotiation, and ultimately reduces independence. What are some items you believe are reinforcing to your child? Consider how you know that these items are potential reinforcers. Does your child smile, laugh, or have a hard time giving them up when asked to? If so, you may have found some reinforcing items. Another thought about reinforcement. If your child is participating in virtual instruction, navigating reinforcement systems may be challenging at times. Here are some questions to consider and discuss with your child's teacher. Who can observe the child engaging in access to preferred areas or items of interest? Is it something a teacher or support staff can facilitate virtually? Or would this better be identified by you or another family member or caretaker? What types of reinforcement are available? What can be provided virtually by the teacher, such as a video playing on the screen, versus tangible reinforcers provided at home? What is the timing of reinforcement, and how are you and the teacher communicating that with one another? What about when reinforcement time is over and it's time to go back to work? Will there be a timer that you control at home, or is it something the teacher will be in control of? While the implementation of proactive reinforcement systems is a must, we know that situations arise in life that catch us by surprise. It can be especially challenging to know how to respond to your child's behavioral needs when out in public or in an unfamiliar setting. Here, it will be necessary for you to have a set of reactive strategies in your back pocket so that you may respond appropriately when your child is in a behavioral crisis. Remember that in these situations, you are in the role of first responder. To prepare for these potential scenarios, please reach out to your child's teacher or case manager to plan and discuss what will work best for your child. Consider a situation where you are shopping in a crowded grocery store with your child and they lay down on the floor and begin to yell. Here are a few general reactive strategies to consider. First and foremost, remain calm. Use a neutral tone of voice and natural body language. Often, children will escalate when they see us escalate, so avoid raising your voice or towering over your child. Similarly, you will want to provide minimal verbal feedback to account for your child's potential language deficits. Imagine someone talking to you and you not understanding what they are saying. It is only going to escalate you more. This goes back to less is more when providing verbal directions. If your child is engaging in extreme attention-seeking behaviors, you will want to deliver the least amount of attention you safely can and direct others to not provide attention either. Often, behavior will escalate initially, but eventually subside as the child sees that he or she is not getting attention for his or her behavior. If possible, shift activities. Or if you are with someone else, ask them to step in for a moment. Sometimes a slight change can be all that's needed to break a behavior cycle. Where possible, offer choices that are under your control. In the scenario mentioned, if your child is lying on the floor and refusing to get up, you might ask if they'd like to walk with you or ride in the shopping cart. If and when your child begins to exhibit the appropriate behavior, offer some low-level reinforcement, even if it's only praise that they have done one thing you've asked them to do. This can often start motivating the child to de-escalate or begin to demonstrate more appropriate behaviors. Pick and choose your battles. Again, if your child was lying on the floor and eventually begins to walk with you, but they are still shouting, you still may want to praise the fact that they are walking so that you may get them to a safe place. If your child has started to walk with you and quieted their voice, you may choose whether or not you want to redirect them back to the activity at hand. In this case, will you continue your grocery shopping or call it a day? This is going to depend on the child and whether they have fully de-escalated or if you think there is a chance they may escalate again. In any case, you will want to make sure that you have a plan in place for different scenarios. If you find yourself in a situation like this, even one time, there is a chance it could happen again. In order to keep it from becoming a recurring event, start to work with your child's teacher or any in-home supports you may have in place to develop a proactive reinforcement system as well as a crisis plan.
As children learn novel skills, they often require prompting or support to complete the skill successfully. Prompting is a valid and an effective teaching strategy. Prompting is designed to support the child with achieving the correct or desired response. When teaching children appropriate manners, for example, we often ask, "What do you say?" in order to elicit the child to say, "Thank you." There are several types of prompts that are often shown in the form of a prompting hierarchy, from most to least restrictive. Here are a few of the most commonly used types of prompts. Physical prompts. Here, an adult uses physical contact to teach the correct response. Often considered the most intrusive prompt, physical prompts are usually used for teaching routines, such as hand washing. We may use most to least prompts with early learners or when teaching a brand new skill. Model prompts. Here, the adult demonstrates the target behavior and the child imitates it. Model prompts are usually used when expecting a child to imitate an action or carry through a task. Asking a child to clap his hands while an adult does it at the same time is an example of a model prompt. Gestural prompts. Here, the adult makes some kind of gesture to prompt the desired response. We may use this when the child does not require the most intrusive prompt. An example of this would be pointing to a child's seat when asking them to sit down. Verbal prompts. Here, the adult provides a verbal cue to assist the child. Verbal prompts are usually used when you expect the child to provide a verbal response. For example, When asking a child to identify a common item, such as a pencil, the adult may hold it up and say, "What is this?" to prompt the child to say pencil. Verbal prompts are often considered the least intrusive type of prompt, but be aware that they can be very hard to fade, so use this with caution. Here is a more comprehensive view of the types of prompts we may use with children to help them succeed in learning new tasks. Consider the types of prompts we just reviewed and determine which prompt or prompts might be necessary to support skill development for your child. Please pause the video and jot these down now. You will now watch a video that demonstrates a series of prompts being used. As you watch this, be sure to note the instruction that is occurring and the types of prompts being used. Also keep in mind the importance of the adult not using additional verbal prompts during routines, and that she waits to provide reinforcement after the entire process is complete.
But it's something that he could use. He has a lot of things that he could do. But he doesn't have the attention, so.
Look at that. You came to sit down.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Those.
I'm Brady cleaned up.
What it's her?
Wow. My Kay cleaned up, and my Troy cleaned up, and my Cameron cleaned up.
Whoa. Hey, my turn. Stand up. Nice standing.
Yes.
Where's my arm?
I don't know, where are your arms?
There it goes. Okay, my turn.
Come on over here, I can see you.
Stand up. Nice. That's nice standing. Stand up. Wow, look at that. You were standing.
I know, I love the kids that are
Uh-oh.
sitting just the way
And
they're
it's
supposed
dying.
to. They're gonna go first.
I think it's dying.
You've been sitting here waiting so patiently. Do you want to use pictures?
Watch. Ready? Whoa. My turn. Stand up. Yay! That's the way we stand. Get it under your shirt.
In your chair.
Gonna put it under your shirt.
Should we clap or should we tap our legs when we sing together?
Get it, put it under your shirt.
Now, should we do it fast or should we do
Ready?
it slow? Okay, ready? Troy wants us to tap
Stand up.
our legs.
Wow! Look at that, buddy. You were standing.
To him. Are you ready? Tap your legs really fast. When it's your turn, you can just
Look at that.
hello, Troy. Hello, Troy. Hello, Troy. We're glad you came to school. Pick someone who's sitting nice.
Stand up. Yay, Zachary!
Give him his picture.
That's the way you stand. Yes.
Brady, do you want us to clap our hands or?
Let's get on that chair. Let's get on that chair. Stand up.
Should we do it slow? Fast?
Whoa!
Hello,
You were
Brady. Hello, Brady. Hello, Brady.
You
We're
were
glad you came to school.
standing.
Put your picture
Give me
up.
that leg.
Right here.
Yeah.
Good. Good job, Brady. All right, Brady.
Stand up.
Who should be next? Should it be Cameron?
Whoa! Way to go! That was awesome. Hey, where'd you lose your shoes?
It's right there, buddy.
Stand up. Whoa! Yes.
1, 2. Cameron, I need to see you do it.
Okay.
Finished.
Guess
Now
what?
your turn.
We're going to go to circle.
There is nothing wrong with utilizing prompting. However, you want to make sure that you have a plan for prompt fading and how to reduce or eliminate the prompts as quickly as possible to avoid the child becoming dependent on the prompt or the adult. When fading prompts, remember it is a gradual process, not all or nothing. If we never fade prompts, we never know if the child is learning from them and if he or she can do the skill independently. This time, you will watch a video that demonstrates prompt fading. Note how each of the prompts were faded and how reinforcement was used in order to shape the desired behavior.
Wash your hands. Wow, look, you washed your hands. Nice job.
Now, with your new learning in mind, think about your child and identify which strategies you can use to build independence with the skills that you previously selected. Make sure to take into account how the environment might need to be structured, putting in place routines and schedules, using visual supports, as well as selecting age-appropriate reinforcers, prompting, and prompt fading. You may choose to make some notes about this as you consider how to support your child in these areas. Please pause the video and complete this task now. We're sure you'll continue to process the information provided today over the next few days and weeks. If and when you have any questions about any of the concepts we explored today, please reach out to your child's teacher to discuss the resources and strategies shared in more depth. If you are interested, here is how to access a learning guide and additional resources from this presentation. Thank you for viewing our training, and have a great day.